I don't believe you. This is incredible.
I have a long career. That's the first time anybody has said that they do not believe me.
Actually, I don't believe you.
That's fine. We can have a disagreement. I'm willing to stand on our record. I'm willing to remind you that it was not buried in 27 pages. Most of that 27 pages is exhibits. When asked about the custodian...
Being forthcoming...
Which we knew for one day...
Being forthcoming is to say...
I'm sorry.
You know what, investigators, Congress who's investigating...
Will you let him answer the question?
I didn't ask him a question.
Well, it was a bit heated back in June of last year, and John Koskinen now in the spotlight again, the IRS commissioner facing impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives. Now, this comes after this week where the Department of Justice decided not to go after criminally Lois Lerner, and you remember all of the back and forth about the bureaucrat and what she did or did not do. Here's the statement by Jason Chaffetz. Commissioner Koskinen violated the public trust. He failed to comply with a congressionally issued subpoena. Documents were destroyed on his watch, and the public was consistently misled. Impeachment is the appropriate tool to restore public confidence in the IRS and to protect the institutional interests of Congress. Now, Democrat Elijah Cummings says, just as in the Benghazi and Planned Parenthood investigations, it appears the facts simply don't matter to Republicans. This ridiculous resolution will demonstrate nothing but the Republican obsession with diving into investigative rabbit holes that waste tens of millions of taxpayer dollars while having absolutely no positive impact on a single American. Calling this resolution a stunt or a joke would be insulting to stunts and jokes. The IRS late tonight with a statement. The IRS vigorously disputes the allegations in the resolution. We have fully cooperated with all the investigations. With that, we'll start there. Let's bring in our panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. George.
Well, the founders provided the impeachment power for a reason, and the reason was that we could not trust the executive branch to police itself. And therefore, to buttress the separation of powers, they had to give this power to the legislative branch. Now, no one who has looked at the timeline can believe that the IRS has been cooperative. And no one who has looked at what we will smilingly call the Justice Department investigation conducted by an Obama contributor believes that the Justice Department was seriously interested in the misbehavior that the Obama administration has said was outrageous, but there's not a smidgen of evidence of wrongdoing. Nothing happened, and the people who caused it to happen were renegade people in Cincinnati. Now, Mr. Cummings thinks there's nothing to look into here. There are three reasons for doing this. Mr. Koskinen is not going to be convicted in the Senate because 2/3 of the Senate are not going to vote to remove him. But by having an impeachment hearing, it will test the power of the media to continue ignoring the story. It will reassure Republican voters that electing a Republican Congress has some consequences, and it will alert the IRS that there are costs in embarrassment, at least, when they do what they manifestly did.
Here's what some people who oppose this move would say. You know it's not going to get through. You know the end result. Why do this, despite what George says, why go forward?
Well, those are questions that are being raised not by Republicans, not just by Democrats who think it's a crazy idea, by Republicans. Well, if you believe that you should prove to Republicans, as George just said, you're the base of your party, that you were elected to do things like this, hold the IRS's feet to the fire, then this is a worthwhile exercise. If you think that the job of the Republican Party is to look beyond its base, especially in an upcoming election year, to show that it can act on things that the broad majority of Americans care about, then maybe this is a rabbit hole.
But I mean, that same argument could be made about repealing Obamacare.
Sure.
That you know
Absolutely.
The president's going to veto.
Yep.
Look, this is not going to end well. Republicans have demonstrated, if they ever demonstrated anything, Republicans in the Congress have shown that they have no ability to conduct successful investigations of this administration. Everything they have touched has failed or backfired. Even Benghazi, where they had prima facie evidence of new data showing that Hillary Clinton had said to the Egyptian ambassador a day after the incident that had nothing to do with the video, and then spent the next week or two telling that to the country and to the father of one of those who fell. The most damning evidence I can imagine. It is something you would have started a hearing with that would have had tremendous impact, and they didn't succeed. They ended up, the image is, the way it's been received, as she had a triumph. If you can't score on that, you're not going to score on this. George admits it's not going to pass the Senate. This is a waste of energy. If the intent is, as Chaffetz says, to restore confidence in the IRS, you know how you do that? You win the White House, you appoint a new IRS commissioner, and then you get an uncompromised DOJ to go in and to prosecute Lois Lerner.
Final word before we turn topics here.
Well, the IRS is the most intrusive and potentially punitive and by now objectively politicized institution of government. And this is the only way at this point it can be exposed and punished, and they should proceed.